goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine. Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined by my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Elaine Woolscroft.
Phil Kessel was still a Stanley Cup champion.
Oh. Bringing it back to Pittsburgh hockey. All right.
That's right. Let's go Pens.
National treasure, Phil Kessel.
Yes. The Penguins have made the Stanley Cup final 100% of the time since acquiring Phil Kessel. That's just math.
Coincidence?
Maybe.
or divine intervention?
Maybe.
Maybe a little both.
Excellent.
Yeah, so let's go Pens. Congratulations to the Pittsburgh Penguins on winning the second Stanley Cup final in 2 years.
Thank God the playoffs are over. I'm so tired. I'm so tired and I need to rest.
Yeah, so congrats to them. I know my brother who works for them, son of a bitch, got to hold the cup and everything like that. So yeah, you suck, Mark. But we're on episode 58, and we're gonna be talking a little bit about Wonder Woman this week.
Yeah.
So I know it's a little bit behind. I know everyone else kind of got their reviews out, but
we gave people a chance to see it.
Yeah,
we do spoil the movie,
spoil the show.
Intensely, so yeah, maybe that's for the best.
Yeah.
That we gave people some time to check it out. And I feel that that it was one of those like in the moment kind of movies, and it made a boatload of money. It's still going to make money, but I think it's going to dip like significantly now.
It's at that point where it probably is.
Well, I have
it's like, Wonder Woman, I got to see it right away, And
I have some sick knowledge for you guys after the break. When
Knowledge?
we get into it. Yeah, I have all the numbers and stuff. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but first we have another news story.
Yeah.
Oh, Danny boy.
We're considering changing the name of the podcast to Celebrities Die Every Week, weekly.
Yeah, I mean,
because that seems to be the thing now.
The Dead Celebrities Show.
The Dead Celebrity Show.
Maybe.
He was 88 years old. I guess unlike, say, like Prince, this one isn't so odd.
Or Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
You hear they found out how she passed away?
Yeah. They said they literally cited sleep apnea as one of the causes. Like, what?
That shit can kill you.
That shit's scary.
Well, it's a matter of over time, if you don't get it treated, it basically can weaken and enlarge your heart.
Oh.
So it might have been where she might have not have had treatment for it.
Oh, God. John, do I still snore? Maybe I should go to the doctor.
Maybe.
Hey, as someone who has sleep apnea, I can tell you, sleep study is pretty easy, you know? And once you get the CPAP, you are sleeping every night, no snoring. It's awesome.
I don't remember what actual sleep feels like. I just wake up in the morning and my first feeling is regret. I'm just kidding.
It's mine too, but I'm usually covered in blood.
But yeah, so yeah, they did have a, they also cited, obviously they figure, a lot of the drugs that she took either on her own or to treat, her mental illnesses was probably part of things.
Yeah.
But they didn't do like a real in-depth report, I guess. Because initially her brother, Todd, was like, we don't need an autopsy. Like, we know. Like, she did drugs. It's not a secret.
Well, John, I think you mentioned this when we first broke it, that when she passed away, that, you spend 20, 30 years doing drugs, eventually that's going to weaken, your system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they say even if you do cocaine once, like, it's going to fuck you up.
Oh, that's just from the people at the Heroin Council. They want you doing their
maybe
drugs.
They're onto something because we know people who have died from heroin, John. So maybe they're onto something. But no, super sad news about her. And then of course we just alluded to it and never said it, but Adam West passed away, and
I never got a chance to meet him.
Us either. He was supposed to come to the next Steel City Con here in Pittsburgh. He was supposed to come to Monroeville, and that was going to be his last tour.
Nope, I think he had just finished his last tour.
Really?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I could have okay.
Yeah,
All right,
it was
hey.
the,
was April his last?
and that was the last one he was doing, and they're like, and the last one for Burt Ward. I'm like, no one cares about Burt Ward if Adam West isn't there.
I was gonna say Burt Ward's pretty much done with comic conventions now.
Yeah. Okay. So he
Hey,
had
I'm
wrapped
Robin.
up.
No one cares about Robin.
Yeah,
So they'd wrapped up.
now go take your man panties and get out of here.
Whoa, man panties. But
They
yeah.
actually had to tape him down.
Yes.
Because when he was
Aw,
doing running
guys.
scenes, it was just like his, his.
And
little
they were
bird hog
also.
was just-
Here's the thing: Adam West was a humongous ladies' man.
Yeah.
Like,
He'd
he
stick it
was
in whatever.
banging all the bat groupies.
Pittsburgh's own Frank Gorshin would take him to orgies. And
Yes,
just go.
they got kicked out of an orgy. Did you know that?
Out of an
How?
orgy.
No. I need to
Yes,
know
he
the
did.
details in which you get kicked out of an orgy. What are the
I
rules?
don't.
for
I don't
something
know
like
what
that?
it is. I was after Adam West passed away. They had a bunch of articles that came out, and I guess this was in either the memoirs that had come out a couple years ago.
Oh wow.
But apparently, Frank Gorshin took him to an orgy, and they got kicked out of the orgy.
Dear God, that's intense.
I don't know how you get kicked out of an orgy. Like literally,
intense.
you're just there for fucking.
You start
So-
eating family photos. You fuck the cat. Start a small fire. I mean, I'm trying to think of things
A
that
small controlled fire.
You know what happened? He did the Batusi.
Oh,
And that was just, they're just like, listen, we don't want to see a naked man doing the Batusi.
he was,
Is this
he was
this
under
wrong?
the spell of King Tut.
Is this wrong that he died and we're talking about an orgy? With I feel like
We are honoring his life, okay? We are honoring the man's life of fucking anything that moves.
Guys, we have
I am
avoided, and I mean,
concerned.
We love Adam West, seriously. In all seriousness,
yeah,
we're very
No,
sad.
it is very sad. I mean, it's one of those ones that actually like hits you. You know.
well, Lane, we've avoided like holy lost life Batman. All those people that post that online, like he's dead.
They seriously were posting Holy Lost Life Batman.
Well,
Yeah.
I saw. Did you guys see the one cartoon? It's like up in heaven, and it's like Batman, and then like an angel, and said, "This phone's been ringing, but we never knew what it was for." And it was
the
like
red phone.
Oh, damn. I saw one person post a picture of the red phone and no one was coming to it.
That's just
like,
depressing.
hurts me.
Yeah.
Why are you
Hurts
doing that
me.
shit? Like that's the thing nowadays is you'll get one person who creates one meme that just encapsulates all the depression and sadness of a celebrity dying. Like remember when what's his face?
Robin Williams?
Well, Robin Williams, but then also you had it with
Harold Ramis.
the ghost version.
There was
of
a
him.
lot of those where they
And-
had him
oh,
and
God.
they like were releasing him.
Yeah, it's like oh god,
That was
damn.
rough. That was really rough.
It's obviously he had quite the film career, TV career, but obviously, as we've mentioned many times here, known for playing Batman. And Brian, I know you were not a fan of the 60s
I was
TV series.
I was not a fan of the '60s TV series, but I watched it as a kid. Like it wasn't that I wasn't a fan of it. It's just like, I want my Batman to be darker, and I know that the TV series was really just it was a reflection of the time. They wanted something on TV that was not going to be depressing because it's the '60s and what other shit's going on in the '60s. It's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
Civil rights, Vietnam War, hippies.
just hippies in general.
Just hippies in general. So, I mean, that's why they went that route, and they went with something that was comic and pulpy and that sort of thing. And I could appreciate it for that, but I mean, am I going to say that's the best Batman? No.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are some people that would make that argument, but they'd be wrong.
They might be old.
I would
too,
say
like-
it's a damn good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Oh,
a damn good Bruce
You know,
Wayne.
and that's an interesting conversation of like the Batman versus Bruce Wayne because they're two different things, and I think some actors have succeeded at doing different parts.
I've always said that every Batman that they've had has either been really good at Batman or really good at Bruce Wayne, but never both.
I except for Michael Keaton. John,
Yeah.
back me up on this, brah.
I'd say he
Well, it
does
depends on what you mean.
What
'cause
version of Batman you want? Do
I
you want a
enjoyed-
psychotic man or?
Yeah,
or-
I enjoyed his Bruce Wayne.
Okay,
But that doesn't mean if, like, in terms of the character, that it was a successful Bruce Wayne. Like, say you're a huge fan of the comic books, then no, it doesn't work.
Okay,
If you
fair enough.
if you only ever like saw the Tim Burton movie, you may love that take on Bruce Wayne because Michael Keaton's very likable. But if you're putting it in the context of greater overall Bruce Wayne's, no, it's not a success.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, personally, I think the only person who's ever encapsulated both Bruce Wayne and Batman is Kevin Conroy.
I might fight you on that one.
You really might? You
Well-
think Christian Bale?
Well, no, because I think the TV series, where I mean, Kevin Conroy's done a lot of things as Batman, but I think on the TV series, it was one of the first times that they broke away from the, billionaire playboy, I don't give a fuck about anything character, and he was actually like ambitious and involved in his company, and it was yet a different take once again on Batman because we had ambitious Bruce Wayne.
No, but wouldn't you think that Bruce Wayne would be ambitious? Like that's if you're looking at it
historically, he's not shown that way.
Well, what I'm saying is basically like if you're Bruce Wayne and you want to basically have the guise of being the rich billionaire, would the rich billionaire just kind of like slack off to a point?
Well, that's how he's usually shown.
He's usually shown.
Oh,
as
he's
that,
just
but
a drunken idiot,
But I don't think that's necessarily realistic. I kind of put Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne kind of in the same realm. They're both rich guys who are somewhat involved in their companies. But I kind of like the fact that Bruce Wayne was ambitious to the point where, that same drive that he has as Batman to fight crime would carry over to his Bruce Wayne persona.
No. Oh,
That's getting away from the point.
Anyways,
though.
You guys could literally, no matter what the episode, we could always discuss Batman at length. That
Are you
always
surprised?
impresses me.
we're
But
both in Star Wars t-shirts today.
oh my god, you guys are fucking nerds. Yes.
Yes, we are.
Love it.
The 60s TV show, love it or hate it, they were close to canceling Batman at DC Comics.
Yes.
And this show just created a new boom and interest in Batman. Strange way to go about it, but it basically saved, I feel, the Batman
And
character.
I'd say
And
largely
without it-
thanks to Adam West, yeah?
And without it, we don't have the 89 Batman, we don't have the Christopher Nolan Batman, we don't have the Batman TV show, Dark Knight Returns, whatever you want to...
I also think that it helped pivot to a darker Batman. Because if you think about it, you had to go to the depths of, ridiculous. Like I always go back to the movie where he, has shark spray. Bat shark spray. Or
Batman the movie?
Yeah, Batman the movie.
Yeah.
Where he's got the bat shark spray, or he's got how sometimes you can't get rid of a bomb. Like you had to have that camp level to be able to say, okay, we've reached the bottom of just humorous Batman. The only way we can go is back up.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't get the 70s Batmans, which are much more grittier, and that led to the 80s Batman, which were way grittier.
You guys you're talking comics now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure that's clear. But yeah, just, obviously he was an older, man, and it's not necessarily as much of a surprise, like you said, John, but still, Adam West is a huge pop culture icon, and nothing but the nicest stuff, just like pouring out from Hollywood of, condolences and then the bat signal shown in LA
On the City Hall.
on City Hall as a tribute, and it said Los Angeles honors Adam West and everything. So yeah, we're just at that point where we're gonna lose celebrities. There's gonna be really iconic people, and it's just getting to the point where for some reason or another they're going to have to leave us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it sucks.
yeah, but
I do like that. He struggled for years with the Batman persona.
it's got to be tough, right?
It was
gotta be
tough, where for years he hated being known as the guy who was Batman.
Well, I think is because when you're an actor, you don't want to be known for
Right.
one thing, especially if it's a little campy,
Kind of like Nimoy, where it's I'm not Spock and then
yeah.
I am Spock.
And then
Well,
he-
it took him years to come to grips with that. He also, I think he dealt with alcoholism and things like that to the point where eventually he grew to accept the fact that he was Batman, that's his character, who he will be known as.
Until the Gray Ghost.
That was a great episode.
For those that don't
I
have
love
any idea
that
what
episode.
we're talking about, the Batman animated series, there was a character that Bruce Wayne adored as a little kid named the Gray Ghost that he kind of essentially based his Batman persona on in the episode, and the voice of the actor that played the Great Ghost was Adam West. So it was kind of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It was.
It's
A fantastic episode. Seriously, that's one of my favorites
And
of the animated series.
and they paid homage to that in the Arkham game, right? John and I are a little bit
Did
behind
they?
on the Arkham games. We're playing Arkham Knight right now. Wasn't there a Grey Ghost poster?
Yeah.
In the game?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of little Easter eggs all around, that kind of stuff. But I didn't know he was sick, but apparently
It was leukemia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cancer's a bitch, you guys. Can we
Cancer
just
is a
do
bitch.
away with cancer? No more
Oh,
cancer.
I think doctors are working on it.
No more cancer.
But yeah, R.I.P. Adam West. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah.
And thanks for my childhood with the Batman TV series, my very young childhood, and we'll miss you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll go to a quick message from the Epicast Network, and I promise we'll be having a very spirited conversation about Wonder Woman when we come back. The Dead Celebrity Show will return in a moment.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Epicast Network show that you're listening to right now. Isn't it great?
Yeah, come on. Thanks for listening to anything.
Exactly.
You could be listening to normal radio like a pap, and you're not. You're listening
not.
to things on a computer like a grown person right now in 2015.
My
God
name is
bless
Sean
you.
Collier. This is my co-host, Aaron Kleiber.
Mm-hmm.
We have a movie review show. It's called You Can't Handle the Truth.
It's more than that, though. We get to be fun.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about everything. But you know what we do? There's a lot of movie reviews in the world. But a lot of those people, they don't know you. They
Yeah.
can't relate to you.
And you know what their dreams were, when they were in high school, was to go to NYU, and they didn't. And then they were like, I want to write for Rolling Stone. And guess what? They didn't. Now they have a blog on Tumblr.
Our dreams were to talk about movies to you. And
Yeah.
we're living them.
We were those people that would sit around a TGI Fridays until 1 in the morning and get kicked out because we were sitting there talking about how Terminator 2 is so good. Okay, we're those guys.
And now you can get in on that action.
Get in on
Because
that action.
We go to an advanced screening and we record as soon as we walk out of the theater. We don't stop to think about it and look up what Kurosawa would have done. We're just talking about it.
And bonus, we're moderately funny comedians who've had moderate success. So,
Exactly.
I don't know. You might be in for something good.
Get that every week on You Can't Handle the Truth, a proud part of the Epicast Network.
That was good. Proud.
I think that was good.
Proud to be an American.
Listen to us now. Back to the show you chose to listen to.
And we're back. That was a message from our friends over at the Epicast Network, specifically You Can't Handle the Truth. Great podcast over there. I know I say that all the time, but they're a
it's
solid
true,
movie
man.
podcast. Sean Collier, this is a little note here. He writes for Pittsburgh Magazine, and they recently came out with their best of.
I saw.
The Atrocity exhibition is on there.
I saw. That was awesome.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, we interviewed them a couple episodes back. I work with Marissa Mercop's Atrocity exhibition, big show, burlesque sideshow in Pittsburgh, and it was voted, I think, like best.
It was
weird-
something. It
was
was
a
something about,
specific thing.
It was a very specific title, and I think they just really wanted to honor
Yes.
it. Because it wasn't like best show or best. It wasn't anything
No.
generic. It was very specific.
Yeah.
Like best I don't know,
It was like
evening of tantalizing stuff. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
It was
very
best evening
specific.
of oddities and something like that.
Yeah.
They had a more of a write up of it than just a here's a list, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and that was so cool. I can't believe I forgot to tell you that because I saw the list the other day. But yeah, the Pittsburgh Magazine's been around for a long time, and to have Sean Collier on so many different kinds of media.
Yep. That's great.
And dear listeners, not to tease him too much because it's probably me next time, but if you're playing a drinking game to this episode, every time Brian coughs, he has a cold.
Yeah, I have a cold. If you couldn't
take a
tell,
It'd be cool
Thanks.
if there was a drinking game. I mean, usually the drinking game is just you drink every time John says something appalling, but then you don't get to finish the episode because you pass out.
Ooh.
oh, that's
Man,
a
you're-
sick burn there.
Your husband must have a hard time with you.
I think he does.
Or take a sip every time I say titties. Titties, 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 titties.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So guys, effing Wonder Woman.
Wow.
Wonder Woman, like the DC cinematic universe, like didn't fail this time.
Okay, I think that I think I might like to start here because I think I might have just a very
Did you come from I hate it?
No. No, calm down. Let me explain. I think I might have a dissenting opinion from you guys here.
Sure.
And that sounds more controversial than it really is. I did not love this movie. I just thought it was very, very good.
Okay.
You know, it was a decent, good comic book movie, but I'm not going to sit here and just gush over how this is the greatest cinematic achievement of the last decade, the way most critics and people.
I'll be honest with you, I'm in the same camp.
Yeah. I mean,
There were things that I saw that I really liked and thought it was very refreshing to see from DC. But there were also things I saw that I'm like, this seems very Batman v Superman-esque.
great. Well, we have tons to talk about. I would say, you know, obviously the movie means a little bit more to me than y'all because of, you know, lady things. And I have lots of opinions about that too. So,
so I felt that you were probably going to really jump into something there. So I just wanted to get out from the cis white male area of this.
Well, actually.
Well, actually, let my penis explain something to you, little missy.
My penis will fix this.
John's penis will now be talking to the mic, everybody.
Listen up, sugar tits. I got something to tell you.
I'm gonna hit you.
No, I think the people that are complaining, and it's mostly men, that this is, I don't think this should be, little girls should be looking up to Wonder Woman. There are real people they should be admiring. I think that that's complete and total bullshit.
It's literally, if you're in that camp, shut the fuck up. I got nothing for you other than shut the fuck up.
There are tons of role models. There are real ones and there are fictional ones.
Exactly.
And there are plenty I've seen of adult males who worship John Wayne. And those are usually people I don't want to hang out with. But
hey, we just talked about Batman. Batman is someone that I've always looked up to.
Yeah.
As a fictional character.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, they're not looking up to John Wayne. They're looking up to Rooster. They're looking up to his characters.
Yes.
Sure.
And they're looking up to fictional characters. There are plenty of businessmen who are not into comic books in any kind of fashion to have Superman on their desks.
Yep.
But why? Because he's a symbol of male power, and so to try to claim that there's something wrong with little girls and women liking Wonder Woman, and as a role model is, I think, complete and total bullshit.
Yeah,
you have real role models, you have fake role models, or fictional ones, and I think it's good.
I mean, I agree. The only thing that I would say is there are a lot of reasons to look up to Wonder Woman that are very diverse, and we'll discuss those. But I think what also little girls shouldn't be afraid to do is to look up to Patty Jenkins, who directed the film, because knowing that this movie was directed by a woman, that's really powerful too.
Yeah. Because
that's something that, a little girl could see this movie and think, wow, I can do that.
Yeah.
Sure, but when you're 8, and I mean, you probably were because you were really smart and thoughtful as a little kid, but most 8-year-olds they're not gonna think about who the director of a movie is. They don't even probably think about what a director does. They're gonna see Wonder Woman, kicking ass.
Well, when you were 4, you saw Batman and you knew that that's what you wanted to do.
I mean, I knew that when I was 4 or 5, I knew who Tim Burton was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, it could very much be that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any articles that said little girls shouldn't be looking up to Wonder Woman, but I did see, and I would agree, it's okay to look up to the director just as much as Wonder Woman too. Now, what I also think is amazing about this Wonder Woman is the fact that the actress is Israeli, and we'll get into that, because that's an amazing role model for a more diverse kind of comic book world. But I wanted to go over the numbers with you real quick because being a female-directed film,
you love them numbers.
I think it's important to know how much the movie made, and it's made a lot of money. So, I mean, anybody that says a female director can't be at the helm of this kind of enterprise is full shit. And I think it's so interesting that if the movie had failed, it would have been Patty Jenkins' fault.
Oh, absolutely.
But if it had been a dude director, it'd have been like, oh, well, the studio's just making really bad mistakes and bad choices. You know, I don't know. I see a lot of sexism in the business, and I really think that would have been how it went down.
I think that's fair.
And yeah, and
I mean, personally,
even as I say it sounds so bitter.
I
but-
blame Zack Snyder.
I hold him personally responsible.
Well, guys, Zack Snyder was very much involved in this movie too.
Yeah, I know.
On a producing level, on a writing level. So
Yeah, I could tell.
We'll get to that. But this Forbes article that I'm citing here is from June 16th. Scott Mendelson's a contributor for like film kinds of things, and he's done all the math for us. So thank you, Scott.
thanks for throwing us a boon, Scott.
As of June 15th, Wonder Woman earned another $6.3 million at the domestic box office, and that was only a 5% dip from the previous week.
Wow.
So it's holding up basically, over time. So its domestic total after 2 weeks of North American theatrical play, its domestic total is $233.85 million. And then it had also made $255.4 million overseas.
Wow.
So as of
Made about $500 million so far. Is it?
Yeah. So worldwide, we're at $489.5 million, along with whatever it made overseas that day. So I mean, barring some kind of fluke, as of the 16th of June, the film would have made $500 million plus worldwide, making Patty Jenkins the fourth female director to be at the helm of a film that made that much money.
Wow. Good for her. Seriously.
Yeah. Other ones, as far as films go, because I think this is an interesting conversation of female directors. 50 Shades of Grey made
that movie.
Made $571
Fuck
million.
that movie.
Brian, have you even seen it?
I don't need to see it.
Mamma Mia made $609
that movie
million
too.
in 2008. And then Kung
Brian,
Fu
have
Panda.
you even seen it?
No.
And then Kung Fu Panda. So, and this
Kung
is
Fu
where,
Panda?
yeah, $665 million back in 2011. So yeah, I mean, like films like he didn't count films where there's been a duo of like man-woman directors, which would be like Frozen and Brave. So he didn't count those.
And Super Mario Brothers.
Oh,
Oh.
that
Husband and
didn't
wife
make
team.
any money. So
No money.
So I mean, it's made quite a bit of money. The budget was something like $159 million. I think I saw. I meant to have that up as well because the budget. I remember looking and it definitely made its money back and then some.
Well, so about 159 million. So probably that means about another 85 million. In
149
promotion.
million. My mistake. 149 million was the budget, and so it's certainly made its money back. I would say.
Well, probably another 80 million in budget. I mean, it still made its money back, but
Yeah,
so
but
we're
I mean-
actually probably looking at about a $220 million venture.
Well, we're only 2 weeks in. You know, what I mean, I think this is going to continue to do well overseas. Now the Forbes article that I cited, that author, he didn't seem to think it would continue to do as well overseas, because I know that, and it's Gal Gadot, the main.
It's not Godot.
It's not Godot. That's the inclination is to pronounce the name like it's French, but she is actually Israeli. So it's Gal Gadot. And but since she is Israeli, that's caused a little bit of controversy
Yeah.
overseas. Like Lebanon hasn't been showing the film, and two, she's a badass, by the way. Gal Gadot, she had to do mandatory service.
That's all Israeli citizens
yeah.
have to do mandatory military service for
Yeah, and she served, and I mean, she's a badass. Like I was very, I guess I'm just naive about other parts of the world, but she had to do her service, and I was very impressed, because she was like Miss Israel when she was 18 or something like that. She's
ridiculously good looking.
She's amazing. I mean, just all around, she's amazing. I would also like to say, she's 5 months pregnant when they did some of these reshoots.
Didn't they CGI
They
her
CGI'd
belly?
out her belly. They really did. They CGI'd out her belly because it was funny.
The future of technology is now.
Because they had put this like weird insert like over her stomach.
It was like
so
a
that
green
they could,
screen
like,
insert, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think what they did is like almost did like a piece of pie, kind of like a Trivial Pursuit piece.
Yeah.
And then they were able to just like shut it and
Wow.
like flatten it out so you couldn't see. But I think it's interesting because a lot of these people, when they see the Wonder Woman poster for the first time, it does look like she's pregnant almost, because she's in silhouette and she has the shield, you know, and it's rounded. So if you look at it real quick, you're like, oh, she looks pregnant, but she actually was.
That's crazy.
When she was filming. So I mean, there's just a lot going on with this film that makes me very excited. But there are some things with you know, that maybe weren't perfect, but I mean, it was very polarizing. I think there's been a lot of people writing about it, talking about it.
I figured that this sort of movie would be polarizing with a certain segment of the society. Just because, you know, with the exception of, say, Black Widow and maybe Catwoman, there really haven't been a whole lot of female superhero-led movies.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, we're still
that
waiting on
damn
Black Widow
movie. Yeah, and then
which Marvel now will, I guarantee, do that
probably.
Yeah,
because they saw Wonder Woman.
I saw an article of like 5 reasons they won't do a Black Widow movie now that this movie is made, you know, 438.5 million. So, and counting.
Yeah,
we're gonna see a Black Widow movie now.
Yeah, very shortly.
And clearly, Scarlett Johansson will be in every Marvel movie.
Yes,
which, you know,
right.
good for her.
So,
getting that money.
So how do we want to do this? Because I have so much to say.
Well,
do we want to talk about this DC movie and how it works, or
well, let's do this. Let's give a brief synopsis. You give a brief synopsis. 'Cause
okay,
this is like your movie. You know, you love this movie.
I have a lot to say.
Okay,
you know, for sure.
Do you want to do the synopsis? Or
Yeah,
do
I'll
you
do the
want to-
synopsis. Okay. So,
And then we'll dive
Girl,
into
why
it.
don't you explain it? Try your best to explain it, sweetie.
oh my God.
I wasn't coming across that way.
No.
Oh no, he's
I
not
just mean it
implying he was.
I
He's
was
being
just
a dick.
saying you're very passionate about this film, and I
No,
think
I just
I
think
wasn't
there's
saying
so
anything
much
about
to
you. I
talk
was just
about.
being
You
an
know, I
asshole.
think there's so much to talk about. So okay, so we have the hidden islands of Themyscira, and there's an entire race of people, I guess, the Amazons,
yes,
that live there, and their sworn duty is to protect the world. So they aren't really as hidden as well as they thought, because Stephen Trevor, is that his last name?
Steve Trevor, yes.
Chris Pines.
Plucky sidekick number 1.
Not to be confused with Steve Rogers, played
Yeah.
by another Chris in another comic book movie.
So many white Chris's in comic book movies. So he he's a spy from. Did they ever explain why he had an American accent?
Yeah,
He was
he's part of
spying for
the
British?
he's part of the American Expeditionary Force.
So
he's charged with working with Britain.
Okay.
At this time, so that's kind of the reason why. But yeah, he's a spy for Britain.
Okay.
And his plane kind of accidentally crashes.
Yep.
Into the water.
Yeah. So he crashes.
Shot a couple of times.
He was shot a couple times. Yes.
And he breaks the barrier that's protecting Themyscira, and he's saved then by our hero, Diana, who for some reason wasn't allowed to fight, you know, as young as she wanted to.
That's
you know,
explained.
Yeah.
That's explained.
Well, I know, but we don't know now.
We don't know yet.
I'm like doing a thing. I'm like
You're doing a
building
thing.
it.
Okay, build the
Jenny
the
from
thing.
Forrest Gump didn't want.
I love how you guys were both like, "Oh, we're making jokes about walking all over you and talking over you," and yet I'm trying to explain it, and you guys have both interrupted me like 4 times.
Sorry.
My penis will fix this. So
God, women like the bitch, don't they?
stop it,
Damn menstrual cycles. Must be a full moon tonight.
dude. You know that like after the show's over, you and I still have to like live together, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Wait, we
anyway,
live together?
so Steve Trevor has come to the island, and Diana is kind of working through her power. She just fought against her aunt, and something kind of scary happened that she didn't really understand. Like she kind of released like this power, and so she's like off having a think, and that's how she sees Steve Trevor crash. And she goes to save him, saves him from drowning, and then all of a sudden, and this is a mystery to Diana, but all of these soldiers come in, and they're all German soldiers, are able to break the pattern. And I thought it was weird that it was like shielded, like the mascara were shielded, but not like, I mean, couldn't they have done like a force field?
It wasn't really shielded. It was just kind of hidden.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I guess that's what I mean.
Like there wasn't a force field or anything like that. It was just kind of like, well, you're not supposed to see this island's there. And we didn't really count on humans coming up with airplanes and, I guess, boats.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird.
Boats have been around.
Boats been around for a long time.
It's like the Bermuda Triangle kind of thing, isn't it? You know, like, oh, where that boat went missing. Like maybe it found an island of like, you know, sexy warrior ladies.
Yeah. So, but they're hostile to the Amazons, and it's funny because a friend of mine said that she wanted to take like a 6-year-old to the movie, and I don't know because of this scene if that would have been a very good idea. There wasn't a lot of blood, but I thought it was upsetting of Amazons getting shot. You know, women shooting men in the heart with arrows and shit. You know what I mean? But I mean, this scene to me, to see all these women warriors, you know, obviously the first several minutes of the movie are just female dominated, which was incredible for me to see that. But to see these women who, most of the extras who played Amazons were Olympic athletes, and they trained for a really long time. Yeah, they trained, you know, for the movie itself for a really long time. I think like 6 weeks, because they had to get good at being on a horse and leaning down, or like when they went backwards, that was like something that they actually did in real time. Wow. Like it that wasn't like special effects or anything like that for them to lean over or, you know, to move around and everything. So the Germans are trying to kill the Amazons. They do kill a number of them. And then at the end of it, we've, you know, one of the significant characters of the movie to this point is Diana's aunt, who's
Antiope.
Yeah, who's the she's in charge of like the army, I guess you could say. She's a general, and she gets killed in this skirmish. Did anybody else think it was awesome that it was Robin Wright?
Yes.
And like it was like, dude, the Princess Bride grew up to kick some ass. Like I know there's been a ton of memes of like, I grew up to see my favorite princesses become generals, you know, like her and Princess Leia. And like that just like was so awesome to me, because it was like, yay, she's a general.
It's funny to me that you think of her as, you know, Princess Bride. I think of Jenny from Forrest Gump.
I also kind of thought of Jenny.
Either way, she's a shit kicker, right?
Yeah.
She's, I mean,
she really beat that AIDS.
she like punched it in the face.
She punched AIDS in the face. You thought she died? No, she just went to Themyscira.
Jenny, why'd you leave me, Jenny?
Jenny.
Oh my God. You guys are the worst. Well, I mean, I thought it was cool, you know, because to see these, you know, these powerful women, but, you know, obviously Diana's heartbroken, and her mom is like the queen. Diana's mom is like the queen of all of the Amazons, and they butt heads quite a bit. And her mom gives her like a very strange origin story for Diana's own life. Like said she was like molded from clay, and then Zeus gave her life.
That's actually part of the comics.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean,
not original canon, but accepted later canon.
I think it's New 52. I think introduced.
What do they call that?
Stuff.
Headcanon? I guess that's just when you.
Headcanon.
I guess that's when you make it up. Headcanon's when you make it up, but you're like, yes, I accept this as canon.
Yeah.
But no, so that's later canon, but still canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no kind of explanation for her exact origins before that.
Oh, I
Which,
see.
This always kind of bothered me in the movie, because it bothered me in X-Men Origins Wolverine. A lot bothered me in that movie. But it just was strange that she was like a little girl, and then like nobody else on this island really ages. And then she grows up to be Gale's age, and then stops aging.
Gal, you mean?
Gal, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Because like everybody else looks the same, kind of.
Yeah, she reaches a certain age, and okay, now she's going to stop aging, just like the way
Well,
Wolverine
I
did.
assumed everybody else around her was an adult. You don't grow that much more after that.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it was like you reach maturity, and that's when the aging stops.
Yeah, well, too, I mean, she was the only child on the island.
That's a nice out for the filmmakers.
That
Brian.
isn't. I'm giving him an out.
Well, she was the only child on the island, too, though, John, because remember when she sees the baby and she, like, loses her shit in London? Like, she's like, a baby! You know, like, because she never really sees that, you know, because she's the youngest on the island. I don't know. I think that they did that, like, digital blur thing a little bit on the Queen, so she looked a little younger when Diana was small, and then just, like, took it away later. I don't know. Maybe she just was, like, using a really good moisturizing routine. And then
Yeah, they didn't look any different.
But yeah, I mean, I could see where you're coming from. I mean, it's an issue. But like I said, everybody else was an adult, so it wouldn't really change that much.
I mean, I'm just nitpicking because I think it's funny. But.
Yeah. So after her aunt dies, Diana decides that she needs to go out into the world because she's very troubled by this idea that there's a world war going on, because she thinks like it's our job to protect, the world. Like, why aren't we there? And all her mom wants to do is just keep her like out of it.
Well, it also, and not to interrupt you, it also has to do with the fact that the Amazons have the belief that the god Ares causes men to commit war. So
And he's lurking out there.
So she feels that this war is basically the war that the Amazons were designed to fight against. So to specifically go after Ares. So
true.
she makes a deal with Steve Trevor that if I go with you, you're going to take me to Ares so I can kill him with the God Killer sword, and end the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, that there. She's introduced to this sword, and it's like, this can kill
The
a
God
god.
killer.
It's
Yeah, so remember that.
So it's the sword, and then there's the
Diana.
outfit, and then that like truth rope thing.
Yeah.
Because it makes people tell the truth, like all the ropes in there. Because they capture Chris Pines' character Steve, and they capture him at first, and they do treat him as hostile at first.
Dude.
And and then he's an outsider. I think more that he's an outsider is a bigger problem, because he's kind of breached their safe haven and brought in all these enemies that killed their sisters.
Well, guys, they don't know the difference between patriots and krauts. They were just
lousy krauts.
I love that you committed to Krauts. That was amazing.
well, just to them, a
it's
bunch
period.
of men.
It's true.
Yeah, a bunch of men showed up and started like killing a bunch of them. Like, so it's more than being a man. It's just like, well, how do we know this guy isn't just going to keep killing us?
How do we know
Well,
he's not a
that's what
servant
I'm-
of the Kaiser?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like it wasn't necessarily like, oh, men evil. It's just these outsiders that murdered people. They see it as Steve's fault, so they treat him as hostile at first. But then Diana kind of intervenes on his behalf and wants him to then show her where to go to try to destroy Ares, because she feels like it's her calling and it's her duty. So,
And this guy's just like, bitch is crazy, but man, that bone structure, I'll take you along.
dude, what was it that you said to me in the theater, John?
You don't stick your dick in crazy?
He said it several times, because she sounds crazy a couple times.
Right, yeah, to him, to Steve, he's like, this bitch is crazy.
But do you know what? Do you know what was nice?
Yeah, I'm going to say something. I agree with John. You don't do that.
When she looks like Gal Gadot, you might. No, I'm just kidding. That was really sexist. But one of the things that I liked about the film, though, is that even if he didn't necessarily believe what she believed in the same terms, her capability and sanity was never really questioned. Like he worked with her, and even if he didn't believe her, he never really undermined her decisions. Mm-hmm. and then later when they go to London, that's where he takes her to start everything, because he has to get this book back to the Brits, because they're working on the Germans are working on some terrible weapon that's like a gas that's going to kill everybody.
And just as a note here, they're following historical context that the war is almost over, and so everybody's just thinking like, dude, relax, we're about to sign a treaty, war's over, don't get us into some kind of diplomatic incident, because it's World War I here, and the enemies in the movie, Dr. Poison and I'm
Dr. Maru.
I'm gonna call him Stryker.
Ludendorff.
I can't.
It was Stryker, right?
It was.
I thought
Danny
that.
Houston.
Did anyone find that really fucking distracting? I thought it was
little bit.
really. I mean, of all people, why pick Danny Houston?
Well-
like, he's already in another franchise. Like,
Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Let me see. There's other examples of actors that go between DC.
and
and
I think it's very. I thought it was very distracting. I was not a fan.
I want to
Well,
be like, listen, Stryker, you should be walking around until your feet fall off, okay?
I
well,
guess.
and or as I like to call them, generic villain one and generic villain with marble on her face.
Yeah,
These
the Phantom S of the opera.
they really were trying to copy Marvel, not just by ripping off Captain America: The First Avenger, but also just in creating horribly boring villains, weren't they?
I suppose. I thought that this was compelling, though, that it was, a military figure and a scientist developing this super weapon, though. I thought that it being rooted in plain old boring evil, like regular evil, was neat because there was really no supernatural or superhuman element to what they were trying to do.
Well, they did have that
Well, at least we didn't think so.
Steroid gas.
Yeah, well, they tried to like ground it in fake science, like the way like the early Spider-Man movies did. Like,
yeah.
I'm Dr. Otto Octavius. I created these arms, and I use my brain functions to control them, and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, it's supernatural, but they're trying to like give fake science to ground it in reality. Yeah, this movie tried to do that too.
Like the fact the gas is hydrogen based.
Yeah,
like they're all about it's that doesn't work that way.
No. Science.
I'm pretty sure regular mustard gas is just about terrible.
What about his steroid cocaine? The villain has steroid cocaine.
His blue steroid.
That was a little
gas.
less easy to believe. I mean, but we do have these two villains that are developing, these weapons against the rest of the world. While Britain thinks they're signing a treaty, that's not necessarily the case. And Steve Trevor's really the only one that knows this is being developed.
Well, even against the Germans, like they're kind of like our country has kind of given up on us, but we're not going to give up on our country. Kind of like how the Klan was like, the South has given up, but we're going to keep fighting and terrorizing, because we're not going to give up the war. So they're kind of fighting even against their own country because they think, well, once we release this ultimate weapon, we'll be able to restart the war and win it, and we'll be heroes.
And again, that kind of does call back to Captain America: First Avenger, with the scene with Red Skull and the rest of the Nazis. Mm-hmm. He kills all of them.
Yeah, this is Captain America with waxing.
Yeah. Oh.
She has a little skirt on. She could have a bush. You don't know. Bushes are coming back.
They're coming back?
Yeah, both Amber Rose and Ashley Graham have come out to say that like they are like into the full bush, and like 1 in 4 women has stopped like removing as much body hair.
Okay.
I refuse to
You're
believe
welcome.
Diana with that short skirt, even with that little thing in the front, that we wouldn't see a little something on the legs.
Well, remember how we talked about when people were pissed off that she shaved her armpits?
Yeah, she shaved more than the armpits.
Don't get me wrong. I would love a world where Wonder Woman has some hairy fucking armpits, but the world's not ready for that yet. It's just not.
But, so, can I get to my biggest complaint with this movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Screenwriting 101. If you read any books on it, they tell you the difference between a great main character and a not so great main character is, does the main character propel the action, or does the action happen to the main character? And if you really think about this, Steve is the main character of this movie.
I totally agree. I totally
Everything
agree. It's his story.
Yeah, and everything happens to Diana. She has no control over anything that's happening. So she's a secondary character to everything that happens. And really, Steve is the one who's propelling the story and propelling the mission and has the ultimate choice in the end of the movie and has the most growth.
I don't disagree.
So it's really his story, and she is just everything happens around her. She has no control over her own destiny in the movie.
And I don't know that Steve has that strong of an arc because he started the movie as a good man and ends the movie as a, there wasn't a lot for him to really work through.
I guess the only thing you could say is like he started out not believing a damn word she was saying about Ares and all that crap, and at the end he suddenly believes in her. But like, I guess you could go that route. Yeah. But I do agree that a lot of the action is propelled by Steve's decisions to do stuff.
Absolutely, because he's the one that wants to go to London. He starts like a team because Diana really wants to get to the front lines of the war, and that's where she's certain that she'll find Ares, that she can destroy him with the sword killer or the god killer sword. Excuse me.
And this is one of the things that I thought the film did wonderfully, because so many times in these movies you have these bland, generic characters that are exposition machines or there because the plot needs them to carry the story along. These individuals that he recruits actually were characters. I found them interesting. I actually cared about them because they all had a unique personality.
They were much more rich than what we usually get.
They had backstories. Like they talked about what they did before the war and how they're not all just, fighters, that sort of thing. They had real lives before. One was an actor, one was a singer, one hadn't sung in a long time until he starts, He
had crippling PTSD, and the actions of the film help him, and again, I have to say it again, she, Diana worked with a team of men that did not question her capabilities
No,
or
they didn't.
intelligence. Because I mean, I think that the dialogue got a little tiresome in this spot when she got to London and met Steve's cohorts, because the joke was just like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I am aroused and upset because she's powerful too. Like, there a little bit of that got old for me, just because I thought it was not necessarily because I had problems with this, like the sexism ramifications. I just thought it was sloppy writing. I just thought it was, it was just lazy.
I appreciated, unlike most Zack Snyder movies, I kind of give him the overall DC credit. Just these, I guess I should say movies in general, that are these brown paintings of just death and sadness. This
Instagram filters.
Yeah. This movie, while, it was pretty heavily filtered as well, but it was much more enjoyable. Like, characters were making jokes. It was a little lighthearted in spots. So maybe I could see how you're saying maybe the humor didn't hit all the time, but at least there were people making jokes and being human beings.
I mean, there was humor in it, which I think was the right step. But like I said, there was, I think, because too the scale is so skewed, because to compare it to something like Batman v Superman, which had the most absurd, stupid, idiotic dialogue of all time.
Yes, it did.
This seemed like fucking Citizen Kane in comparison. I mean, that's what I'm having a hard time with. It was so much better than anything the DC cinematic universe has come up with.
And I think that's why so many people are just head over heels for this movie. Once again, good movie. But I think it's because, oh my God, DC finally made something that's not garbage.
Well, too, it's hard to see this in a vacuum, right? I mean, This meant a lot to women in the world, to have a female-helmed superhero movie that is doing its best to be feminist. Now, I know a lot of writing has come out about that, where some people thought it didn't hit the mark, quite right.
Well, kind of referencing things that we just talked about.
Exactly.
Like this Chris Pine really was kind of the main action on this thing, even though he is supposed to be a secondary character.
Yeah.
It's called Wonder Woman. It's not called Steve Trevor.
Yeah, and I did read an article on Slate, that literally says, I wish Wonder Woman were as feminist as it thinks it is. And she has some legitimate complaints, some of the same stuff that I just said. The article author definitely cites this one, the dialogue that I just did, like of how that joke kind of got,
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, we've waited so long for this movie. It's not going to be right all at once. It's not going to be perfect all at once.
I would say it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Sure. I mean,
in terms of not just Wonder Woman as a creating a female-led superhero movie, but just in DC's entire cinematic universe tone. Like, I posted on Reddit a question about how do you think that Wonder Woman will affect the rest of DC movies going forward.
How many trolls did you get?
Oh, I got one douchebag who said, "Oh, are you trying to get people to write your podcast for you?"
Ew! Someone really said that?
Yes.
See, I meant like
No, I got one douchebag who did that.
That's crazy.
And I'm just like, buddy, this is Reddit. It's a giant
so
forum.
funny.
I posted a discussion topic.
That's so funny.
All right, I'm just going to say it. I got the balls to say it. Wonder Women should be men.
Well, actually, here's the thing. A lot of the comments I got were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I posted on the movies subreddit.
Okay.
So, it's generally people who are passionate about films. And a lot of people basically said that they think that this it's either going to be a blip and DC will go back to doing the shit that they always do.
Interesting.
Or it will mean that more movies are going to have more of a lighthearted tone.
I think it's a blip. We've all seen the ads for the Justice League movie. That looks like Batman v Superman on steroids.
Well, I
not
do
even
know.
Joss Whedon can save that
Here's
shit.
the thing. I think they said they were going to try to do some reshoots for Justice League to add more Wonder Woman into it.
Well, they should. I mean, they should for a lot of reasons.
But here's the question, though. Is it a better thing to add more Wonder Woman, or is it better to go with more of a lighthearted tone that the Wonder Woman film kind of represents?
I mean, I think what it was, too, is not just the lighthearted tone, but Wonder Woman had a hell of a lot more heart. And
Yeah.
I know people were pretty split over the ending. A lot of people thought it was super cheesy.
Are we getting there?
I mean, we're getting there pretty soon.
Right.
because what basically happens is Diana sees like the front lines of the war.
Yeah.
And she inserts herself, in, I mean, probably the coolest scene I've seen in a movie in a really long time. I mean, she's just
where she goes.
She's
on
just
the
a woman,
actual-
and she's on like no man's land, and she's getting fucking shot at, and like she's holding her goddamn ground. Like, I mean, that for me was like the come to goddess moment of like, oh my lord, this is awesome. Like, that was my favorite part of the movie.
I know that scene's symbolic, but it's also absurd. My shield.
God damn it,
is gonna
Willis
stop
Crumb.
hundreds of thousands around.
She's I was just gonna give away something, but anyway, it's all her shield's a mystical shield and shit. Fuck you. God damn it.
Suspension of disbelief,
It was
John.
just so cool because there she is. She's this woman leading the charge, and and then the other guys are like, well, fuck, she's gaining tons of ground, and we can take these assholes out. So they were able to.
She's drawing their fire. That's what
Yeah,
they're doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then they were able to liberate this town, and they have this like amazing night where she's able to and I thought the writing here was really, really tight because there was a callback from the battle scene that was back in the Mascara where they jumped on a shield to fight, and Steve said, Diana, shield.
Yep.
And she was able to go into this bell tower and take this, the last of them out, and they were able to liberate this town, and they realized that nearby generic villain 1 and or no, what are we calling them? Generic villain Stryker and generic villain Phantom of the Opera. But the villains,
Dr. Poison.
the villains weren't far, doing their villain things, and they'd be able to kind of infiltrate.
Yeah.
And then she and Steve do some sexes, and
They have some banging bang.
yeah, and
Well, I mean, I know you had some problems with that, but I found it refreshing that two characters could actually be human and fall in love with each other.
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
Yeah,
they
but I
had
just-
some chemistry, though. There was definitely chemistry between the two characters.
yeah, and I
And
mean,
they're both really, really good looking.
and you
Yeah.
can tell that the actors
Good.
really enjoyed each other too,
Yeah.
because I think you can always tell when actors don't like each other.
Yeah.
The thing that I and we've talked about this, in the feminism of the movie. The thing that I would have wanted that we're just, again, this is the first of its kind. We're not ready yet. The world's not going to give us exactly what we want. I mean, Diana came from a society of all women, and even tells Steve that men are not necessary for pleasure, even though they are for reproduction. I mean, for Diana to be gay would not be that big of a leap.
She is
No.
bisexual.
She's,
though.
yeah.
Wonder Woman?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then there you go.
Yeah.
That's great. But we didn't see any of that
Well,
necessarily.
I think that. Do you need to throw that in there?
I didn't think it needed a love
The
story at all.
secretary just joins in.
I didn't think it needed a love story
That's
at
the
all.
porn version of Wonder Woman. Okay.
Wood Rocket will release that.
I didn't think it needed a love story at all. I think it would have been nice if Diana had realized, because she'd never really met a man before.
Yeah.
If she'd had this, friendship with Steve that turned into him being an extension of her family, and her realizing, that she could forge relationships with people outside of her zone, and it wouldn't have to be romantic. That would have been ultimately, to me, the most feminist thing that they could have done, is
Well,
not have a romance.
I mean,
to
I
it.
think
I
also,
didn't think it needed
I
it.
think the thing is, though, let me ask you this. Who was in control, though, of the romance? It was Wonder Woman.
Well-
it was not Steve. Steve initially was like, oh, well, he tried to, move in on her, and he's like, what are you doing? That's what I'm saying, is she was ultimately in control.
Yeah.
Well, there was that dancing scene where she's like, "You're awfully close," and he's like, "Yeah, I am." Oh, do you feel that grinding on you?
John, that was never a scene in the movie.
They were dancing.
No,
But he wasn't grinding on her.
He was doing that to Dr. Poison, though.
Oh, well, yeah,
He was totally trying to get into Dr. Poison's pants.
He was.
Well, he realized, he's like, I'm good looking, so and Dr. Poison's like,
half
a
your-
man paying attention to me.
She's
I
like,
need to tell my
oh
cat.
my God.
My cat.
She's like, you mean you really like the half of my face that's scarred?
Take it off, and I'll finish on it, baby.
Ew, God damn it, John. Stop it. So, no. I think this is important to talk about
You're right. You don't put frosting on pizza.
because this is
Oh, God damn it.
I hope you all heard me hit him.
Jesus Christ.
No, I have something important to say.
Okay.
So, another thing that, the Slate article had mentioned was that Diana didn't have a lot of agency because she was naive about the ways of the world.
Yes.
And said this author thought that her capacity for consent was blurry. I disagree.
No, I saw her in control. Of
She
everything.
knew as an academic, like the theory of what, men and women, can do to each other or together. And I never felt like she didn't have agency. And like you said, I never felt like she wasn't in control.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think is different than other films where you've got kind of the love, scene that happens. Is I felt that throughout the entire film that Diana was in control of the relationship between herself and Steve.
Yeah, because the author of this article had said, like, she can't understand why Trevor thinks it would be improper for them to sleep in the same bed when they've just met. And she kind of says, like, that's her naive nature and her innocence. But I think that it was almost, like, very feminist and, like, sexually liberating of, like, we just met. I mean, if you want to sleep together, that's fine. Like, she didn't.
This is crazy.
She wasn't like, she wasn't wrapped up in any kind of like normal sort of feelings where you would have. Like, I thought it was very much like an approach to like, oh, like, cool, you want to sleep together, or like even like sleep together. That's fine.
Well, in a lot of ways, they're like warriors in battle together. Like, hey, let's sleep back to back in case Charlie surprises us in the middle of the night. Like,
that's right.
I imagine that would be a large part of the of the mentality. But yeah, see, and so I thought it was interesting that this author saw that sort of was a naive part of her nature where she wasn't capable of consenting or like understanding what was happening to her.
I think that's injecting a certain point of view to
I do
that,
too, because
I don't think that's correct.
Because I think that like Diana knew what it was, but she just
Absolutely.
didn't have the same moral judgment. She didn't
Right.
care.
She's coming from a warrior's perspective.
is that just and I mean, I don't know the author. I mean, she could be very well, accredited, but is that just looking for a fight? Like,
well, she had a lot of complaints about the movie, and I think it's good to see both sides because sometimes when you see a movie, especially when it's sweeping and grandiose and a comic book movie, you kind of, if it made you feel good, you leave thinking, oh my god, it was perfect. It's good to look at these things with a critical eye, especially I think in our current political climate, and women are losing ground on like basic human rights every fucking day. We need to be critical of these things, and we need to keep in mind what we need to go for next time. So this movie was a good start. And I don't think it was like the be all end all of every feminist win that you could possibly have. But at the same time, I don't think it failed either.
Well, it's weird to think, trying to create a extremely feminist product from a character that was created by an old white male sex pervert.
Was he really a sex pervert?
Oh, well, yeah.
He just wanted to have sex with his wife and another girl. I mean, at the same time. With bondage.
What's wrong with that?
with tons of bondage.
With tons of bondage.
Yep. Put the cucumber in my mouth, call me Mary, and smack me and scream in my ass.
Maybe 1940s that was considered sex pervert. I don't think that would be considered sex pervert now.
Did he get kicked out of an orgy?
I don't know.
No, he didn't go with
Check
Frank
out the
Gorshin.
biopic that's going to happen soon.
Pittsburgh's own Frank Gorshin got you kicked out of an orgy. We Yinzers know how to get kicked out of orgies.
We do.
Yeah, I mean, you're already starting from a weird place, and it's interesting that she always looked beautiful and her makeup was perfect.
Though I did like it was a minimalist approach. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important. Like, yeah, I mean, girlfriend had eyeliner on, but it wasn't too over the top.
Well,
She's naturally gorgeous.
I just think it's, you can always be a feminist icon as long as you're constantly beautiful and look perfect.
Yeah, but by the same token, too, people were calling for hairy armpits. I think the problem here is that everyone is trying to mold what a feminist looks like to their own ideals. It's like that same thing where, you judge everybody, right? So like you judge a woman if she's in like a crop top and tiny shorts, like, oh, you should have like more dignity. You should cover up. Or then you see a woman, in more traditional like head to toe, garb. I can't remember what that's called. I'm so ignorant. I apologize.
Oh, the burqa?
Yeah, burqa. You see a woman in a burqa and you're like, well, she's being oppressed. She shouldn't be wearing that. Women can't win. Like, you can't judge somebody and you can't determine what they look like.
I didn't have any problem with that. I mean, I get the whole hairy armpit thing. Traditionally that probably wouldn't. You probably would have Amazons with hairy armpits.
Well, if we're talking Amazons, they would have cut off their right boobs
That's
too,
right.
because it got in the way of their fighting. So I
Right.
mean, that wasn't accurate.
So
either.
I mean, there's going to
would've been
be
an
an
interesting
artistic
movie.
license. Now, I had problems with this movie on a couple different points. Okay, and I know this might be Zack Snyder, his fault.
Here we go.
Snyder alert.
I swear to God, if I see another slow motion action scene, I'm gonna fucking puke.
Yeah,
I am sick and tired of slow motion action for every single thing. It's every single time.
Though, I mean, they can do so much now on set with special effects, whatever, that you almost need something slowed down to keep up with it because it's just so fast-paced and
but
incredible.
it's something that should be peppered in. It shouldn't be the entire fight scene.
They did do it for effect.
It was
more than
for
necessity.
every single time. I mean, even the final battle had that, which the final battle was very Batman v Superman-esque, like
Oh god!
down to a T.
Are we getting into it yet? Are we getting into it yet? No.
Okay,
Fine. Your complaints.
so yeah, I really hated the slow motion action for every single fight scene, and I get it. I get why you did it, but at the same time, we've had fight scenes since the dawn of cinema. I think you can find out other ways to show action than slowing it down, for effect.
Yeah, I liked that they did make it early on a component of the film's visual language, if you will. It wasn't like it just was the fight scenes. I mean, we saw it as early as the opening scenes with the mascara, the Amazons
I just thought
fighting.
it was too damn much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that it's a tired visual trope, but at least they introduced it in a way that was consistent throughout the film. And most of the film was actually pretty competently shot. I thought that it wasn't.
It was. The cinematography
rich,
was pretty good. I mean, my thing is this. Okay, if I'm trying to show that this particular character has a lot of power with a hit or a kick or something like that, I'm not going to slow it down. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because that slows down the intensity. So what I'm going to probably do is chop it to a point so it looks like there's more power, and that's how you shoot a fight scene. Mm-hmm. If they had Wonder Woman actually throwing punches and then cutting like right before a hit happens, it would show more intensity than to the slow down shit.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's tired.
That I think would help not only the character kind of to show that this is how much power they have with their fighting ability, but it would just kind of break away. And if you want to throw in a slow motion here, a slow motion, okay, fine, but you don't make every single action a slow motion.
Can I sound like an old man yelling
Yeah,
at
you
clouds here? Old man yelling at clouds moment. I think we want everything to appear like video games anymore, that these action sequences, back in the day wouldn't have been as long, especially the scene where she goes and she's taken out like 7 or 8 guys at once. That scene didn't need to be as long as it was, but if it was shortened, people would have been upset because they're just so used to video game action like that so much that it's almost required that this scene that doesn't at that moment carry the movie forward, but we need to see it because we need to see the action because we're just so used to that stimuli in video games and things like that.
Well, let me counter that with, have you ever seen the Netflix series Daredevil?
I have not.
I've heard it's
so
great.
far,
Okay.
everybody around me has seen at least one variation of
There
comic book
is
TV except me.
I would suggest that you watch at least the first episode, the pilot for it, because that episode has by far, in my opinion, one of the best action fight scenes I've ever seen. It is a single shot, okay, a single shot of choreographed fight between Daredevil and like 10 or 20 guys, and it's like one after another, and it's just beautiful hits and choreographed fight. That has more intensity and more weight. Like, that's the moment where you realize, holy shit, this guy's, he's got some skills. He's got some power. And that rings more than the slow motion shit that I saw in Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. That's the problem I have, is that is choreographed fight, that's just smartly done. And I just felt like they kind of went for, let's just slow down everything and make it look Zack Snyder-esque. Because that's something he does in every one of his fucking movies. From Sucker Punch to Batman v Superman, they all had that slowed down shit. Now,
Zack Snyder was just like a pimply-faced kid jerking off watching The Matrix in the movie theater. Like, I'm going to slow down everything I do, too.
but even The Matrix peppered in slow motion. They didn't have it all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
So that was an issue. Aside from that, like, you know, you already touched on it, the fact that Steve Trevor was kind of the main character and kind of drove everything. That was an issue. But the real big thing for me, and I'm going to give it to you here, is that last battle with Ares.
All right, so
okay, we're getting into
I'll
it.
I'll fill in real
us
quick.
in.
So Diana and Steve both go undercover to this this gathering that's taking place nearby, and Diana at this point is convinced that Ludendorff, the Stryker, is Ares himself, and she's ready to take him out. She wants to murder his face, and
Just his face.
what ends up happening is instead of giving off fireworks at this party like they said they were going to, they send the poison gas that they've been working on back to the town that Diana and Steve and their cohorts all saved, and they murder everybody.
All the Germans.
Everybody dies. And so Diana's heartbroken, and she and Steve are kind of butting heads over what to do next, and she's ready to destroy Ares, and so she's heading to their to where Ares is finishing, or to where Ludendorff is finishing to develop the weapon, and they're going to be loading it on a plane, and they're going to be releasing it
Again,
to destroy
Captain America.
as many
Same
people
thing.
as possible.
Although, I mean, how many different variations can you tell on these, comic book heroes?
Well,
But-
and do you know what's funny? We haven't even mentioned him yet, but one of the characters in Wonder Woman has been helping Steve and Diana this whole time.
oh yeah, this is kind of necessary. Oops.
And so Sir Patrick has been helping them behind the scenes. He's played by David Thewlis, and he's been helping them behind the scenes. And it turns out that even though he was a very minor character in the beginning, it turns out that he himself is actually Ares, because when Diana kills Ludendorff, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. He just dies, and she doesn't understand. And then David Thewlis, which I thought was a very odd choice for a villain anyway, but he comes to her, reveals himself to be Ares, and then sets up the final battle. Would you like to talk about the final battle, John?
Oh fuck. Okay. To me, this movie
fuck.
just falls apart in the third act. This is, and I know a lot of people love the ending, loved everything about this movie, but to me, it just absolutely just falls apart like Jenga. It's like oh, it seems like it's in perfectly good shape, but I pull that one near the bottom and the whole tower falls down. So yeah, we have these villains that we set up in the movie, and then the Dr. Poison is basically just turned into a joke because here comes, Chris number 4, who's like, hey, I have a penis. By the way, was anybody else bothered by the fact that since the male character was almost, the reverse was like the female of the movie, he had to point out that the movie had to point out that he had a big penis?
What?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did?
They
What?
did.
When he
They
gets out
pointed
of the
out he
water,
had a
yeah.
giant dick.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, well, I might be the woman, quote unquote, of the movie, but I got a big dick.
That was lost on me,
yeah,
but that's
yeah.
gross.
Anyways, so yeah, he's trying to seduce Dr. Poise, and she's immediately all for it because women see a good-looking guy and then they just lose all common sense.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
And then while they're distracting, she's Wonder Woman's fighting Stryker, and he has his steroids.
His
I
blue
guess
gas.
because they had to give somewhat of an action sequence because we expect constant action, and we can't just have a scene where she absolutely dismantles him, and we feel a little uncomfortable because it's like, oh, she's absolutely destroying this man, but she thinks what she's doing is right, but maybe it's more of a gray area. I thought it would have been better if he was just begging for his life.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
She still kills him.
I thought it'd be great if she just dominated him.
Yeah. But she ends up killing him, and then she's like, everybody still seems to be fighting, and there's still the gas, and what's going on? And instead of having a great ending where it could have been, well, maybe there's more gray area to humanity than you thought, Diana. Maybe there isn't an Aries. Maybe that is what they weren't telling you, what they were keeping from you as a child, is that there's no Aries coming, that there is great anger and hostility and fear and violence and evil out in the world that you can't just control by killing one man, and kind of the acceptance of that. No, there really is an Aries, and he's a crotchety old English dude who just shows up randomly in the third act and is like, yeah, I've been putting bad ideas in men's mind for years, so they really are bad because I kind of whisper bad ideas in them. And now let's have a CGI gigantic battle, and you don't really learn anything because I'm kind of the responsibility.
Well, all you learn about is basically that, Diana actually was not made out of clay. She is a result of Zeus and Hippolyta basically getting it on.
So her mom is still her mom, but Zeus is her father, so she is part god.
And that is why, and she is actually the god killer. That's
not
the thing.
sword.
The sword has nothing to do with it. She's the god killer because only a god can kill another god.
So not an extension of manhood, but womanhood is the god killer.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And see, and this is what I was saying before, like, where I didn't think we needed a romance between her and Steve, because what this ends up doing is this makes Ares her brother, her half-brother, but her brother. And I thought it would have been great if, she and Steve had fostered this, like, platonic relationship throughout the film, where there was no romance involved, and she, could, like, have... And I would agree with you, John. It would have been better with no Ares at all. I think that would have been way more...
They set it up to basically have Ares at the end, though.
Right. But, if they had changed it, I think that would have been a better movie. But if we still had Ares in it, I think it would have been cool if she, like, had denounced it, where he would be like, I'm your brother, like, join forces with me, and like when we can we can make the world back to what it was, and we can destroy humanity, whatever. And she could say like, no, I have a brother, his name is Steve Trevor, or something like that, where it's like,
well, she can't say that because they fucked.
Well, I mean, in my movie they wouldn't have fucked, assholes.
Can't do that,
guys. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't feel like you're listening to me.
Okay, so this is the Lane recut.
This is I just literally said this is what I would have wanted from the film, where they didn't have a romance, aka they didn't fuck. So, and it would have been a platonic relationship where it could have culminated in her saying like, you're not my brother, like I have a brother already. And it could have just been about platonic relationships, that she developed with Steve, instead of it being just like, a trite romance, which I didn't think the movie needed. Got it? No fucking this time in my version of the movie. It's not like you even see any good stuff anyway.
I know. Why didn't we get that like Zack Snyder Watchmen sex scene?
Oh my god! You mentioned that, and like my stomach dropped a little bit. Like like I'll watch that all day long. That's a good scene. All right.
But yeah, and it just turns into a CGI schlockfest.
It seriously does.
Well, too, like I said, I mean, didn't you guys think David Thewlis was an odd choice?
Well, yeah, he's this ancient god, but he's just this crotchety old English-looking dude. And, like, he looks like a crotchety old English dude, like, thousands and thousands of years ago. Like,
oh, yeah, when they put him in, like, the Ares armor.
Mustache?
Yeah.
It's the same, like, that just was a popular facial hair to have at the time in England. Right. But apparently he's always had the mustache.
He was in style eons before it was in style. He was just waiting for his time to come around. Yeah. He was going to come around. He's like, you know what? This mustache is going to be in style eventually. I'm just going to hold on to it. But no, I thought the CGI stuff was just... Like, that's what I said. I could tell that was clearly a Batman v Superman kind of moment. Like, it was down to, the whole battlefield and the CGI explosions and him just throwing shit at her, and just, it went on and on and on.
Well, and they wanted to give us free will, because he gives this statement, well, I only gave them bad suggestions. They had to be the one to do it. It's like, so are you completely responsible or not responsible? Right. Mm-hmm. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and depending on how you wanted to look at the movie, you're right and you're wrong.
Well, I can see what the movie was trying to do, and again, there's been a lot of discussion of the film, so it's hard to see anything about the film without seeing someone else's opinion. And I can see where some people think like, okay, they wanted the film to have more heart. You know, and the whole point of her conflict with Ares is to understand that there is gray matter when dealing with human beings. You know, humanity isn't black and white, but it's worth saving anyway. And that's like the core of it. There is no deserving, and that's what they say in the film. You don't do it because, you know, anybody deserves it more than anybody else, but you believe in something, and you believe in the good of humanity and how the good can outweigh the bad. You know, and that was the crux of the emotional kind of like catharsis that Diana has at the end, because I mean, she's kind of ready to give up almost and be like, why are people like this? Why is the world like this? You know, and I can see where the filmmaker was trying to bring that through, but in the midst of them like throwing trucks at each other. And two, I mean, and I feel like the catharsis did end up being on the cheesy side. It just came off as didactic in the end, where I felt like I was being preached at.
Well, that always bothers me in these movies too. It's one of the reasons, and I know I've said this actually a couple times on the show, why I love Batman is because he's a normal guy. Like, I don't know what hurts these people at all. Diana and Ares are kicking each other 400 feet and they're crashing into like concrete and stuff, and they're just getting back up. I have no stakes in any of this because I don't know the limitations to your powers.
And especially in this movie, I mean, Diana doesn't even get cut. She's not bleeding or anything like that. So I think it's especially prominent in this film where there is no physical ramifications to any of it.
Well, she picks up a tank like it's a coffee cup, you know, and she's about to throw it. And apparently, I guess throwing a tank at Ares will kill him. But, you know,
It didn't kill him.
No, she had to like blow him up with her powers.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing.
And the thing is, you're like, oh, you should kill Dr. Poison. She's real bad, and she's like a little sad puppy, like,
don't kill me.
You know, I was just like, oh yeah, Dr. Poison here, folks. She's like, and look at her pizza face. She's a monster, you know. Just like, I don't have pizza face. Please don't kill me with a tank.
Well, I mean, the point is though that Diana spares her.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the end of the movie, thankfully they did set it up earlier with her like light show that like she has that unknown light power thing that
her god powers.
The MacGuffin to get out of writing, you know, something logical.
MacGuffin to get out of writing.
Yeah.
You know, it just blows him up and
Yeah, with her powers. Well,
great.
More importantly, what's happening with Steve Trevor at this time, fellas?
Steve Trevor has boarded a one-stop flight, kids.
To hell.
Yeah, he's on a big, you know, plane full of this gas that was intended to drop, you know, all this gas on the Allies during the war. And Steve sacrifices himself and flies it, you know, off to somewhere safe, you know, Dark Knight Rises style.
Again, sounds a little similar to another Steve.
Although, you know,
he flies it.
Batman did the same thing. We don't shit on that. And there's another version of it, you know.
To be fair, Steve flies it in the air and blows it up. Like, he blows himself up.
Still
but, like, the big point is in The Dark Knight Rises, Batman survives. Spoiler alert.
Here's the thing. There are people out there who think that he actually did die and that is a hallucination of Alfred.
Oh, there's been...
there's multiple theories.
Debunked.
That's been debunked?
It's been debunked.
Okay.
But yeah...
I wasn't hip on the new theories.
And they wouldn't have even made the point to show that there was a that he could exit the plane if it was all just a dream. Anyways, getting back to Wonder Woman. Yeah, it was just a nonsense ending.
Well, Steve makes the ultimate sacrifice, and his ending is ultimately much more interesting, right? Because he's given himself up for this thing he believed in.
Mm-hmm. I think it would have been better if he survived and maybe at the end she saw him in like an old folks home. I only know that because they've done that on like Justice League.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, the thing is...
And it's much better.
Once again, characters that understand what they're doing and what they don't understand what they're doing, like, he lived a life where he could see evil and good, and he knew better just from having lived a life. Diana was almost brainwashed into believing what she believed, and it was not even fully accurate. So her actions were made because she almost didn't know any better. His actions were because he made a adult, educated, thoughtful decision that they are bad and this is evil and I need to go about saving this situation. So
Fair point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's the conclusion that Diana herself eventually comes to as well, and she does try to catch up as best as she can, to the state of how the world actually is. But it's funny because when you do have a different perspective, you see things through totally different eyes. I mean, there's the jokey dialogue that she has with Steve's secretary where she says like, "Oh, it sounds like you're a slave." And when she's trying on like those proper London clothes, like, how do you fight in this? I mean, she's coming at things from her own angle because she does have a unique perspective.
Yeah.
Is it kind of sad that in order to have a strong female character in a movie, she has to be violent?
I mean,
it's like, oh, she can kick ass. How many times have you heard that? Like, oh, what a great thing for little girls. She can kick ass. She can fight. Like, does it always have to be violence as a solution to have a strong character for little girls to look up
something
to?
That was nice about Diana Prince in this movie was that she was so smart and she was like fluent in thousands of languages.
Yes.
Like, I saw some stuff online after
Was just so that she could speak English in the movie.
How did the Amazons know how to speak English?
Please take a moment from looking at my giant hog to explain to me how you can speak English.
I had a point, assholes. I saw online that, a little girl saw this movie and she said, I want to speak hundreds of languages like Diana. So, I mean, that's getting in, that message is coming across too. I mean, they do speak to her intelligence several times, which, again, like I said, this movie is not the be all end all of feminism that I want or that the world needs, but I mean, it was a damn good start,
Okay. Well, let me end this by asking you guys a question. How do you think this movie is going to influence other DC cinematic films?
Well, I think that the attitude in this was encouraging because they didn't try to make it a Marvel movie. I really respected that there was no cutscene in the credits, and I think that was largely in part to kind of distinguish themselves from the Marvel Cinematic Universe juggernaut. I think that they need to take the lessons from this, and I think that the movies could be better if they take their cue from Wonder Woman. I don't know that I can predict what anybody will do, but this movie proves that a female-helmed film can make a ton of money and that a female superhero movie can make a ton of money, which is all that the studios care about. But, I mean, more importantly, I think it creates a cultural shift that our society really needs. Like I said, I mean, women we're like Diana on the battlefield right now when she's being pushed back by all that gunfire. I mean, it's the year 2017 and we are still having to fight for fucking reproductive rights. I mean, we need strong role models right now more than ever. And I think that that's what the world needs. And I hope that the studios see that it can make them money as well, because the studio's not going to do it for the right reasons.
No.
But I think if
they never do.
If they take their lessons well, we need more of this, but we need more progression. We need it to be more progressive. We need the writing to be good. We need the characters to be fleshed out. We need real emotions. And like John said, I mean, we need other films too that aren't just, strong women, aka violent. We need more diversity in the comic book genre. And if DC's smart, they'll take this as a lesson moving forward.
John, what do you think?
I see it on the lesser scale movies because Hollywood is just a copycat industry. You look at Suicide Squad, would they just try to copy Guardians of the Galaxy and failed horribly? But, they will, like Cyborg and movies like that, they're going to copy the Wonder Woman thing. But I feel that, like, the Justice League movies and anything Zack Snyder is really behind, and I'm not talking who he was behind to a degree, Wonder Woman, but I'm like, when he was helming the movie, they're not going to take anything from this movie because he never learns, and he's got this auteur theory where
you call it auteur, I call it Instagram filter,
where he's going to always make his movie. So I don't see it in the Snyder helmed ones, but I do see it in the smaller ones. I think something like Cyborg, for example, and maybe Aquaman are going to have this effect there because it's liked. It's made a lot of money. Suicide Squad made a lot of money. Hated. There's been other
Won
movies.
a fucking Oscar.
And there have been other movies that have been adored but didn't make any money. So this one has that delightful combination where studios love, where everybody is loving it and it's making a bunch of money. So you will see the effect of that kind of trickling down on other DC movies, I feel.
I personally think that it's a mixed bag, honestly. I feel that DC is still trying to discover their voice and what that voice is going to be. They tried basically. I mean, for me, this is the first time that they took a step away from the Nolan-esque DC type movie. You know, this was the first time they took a step away from that, because I mean, we can kind of all admit that Batman v Superman, even though it's a different Batman and everything like that, it's very much still grounded in that Nolan way of thinking, to a point. And I think Wonder Woman is a step away from that, where it's now trying to treat it as an individual movie, not necessarily as part of a giant universe thing, and that's great. I think that's the way it should be. But personally, I also know how Warner Brothers, I know how DC is. They're going to only apply this metric to female-based superheroes, because that's what their thinking is. So I imagine that this is also going to leach over to Marvel when they do Black Widow, when they do Captain Marvel. I would not be surprised if the directors of those films said, oh, look at Wonder Woman, look what they did.
Well, Brian, don't forget about Gotham City Sirens. They're in production on a all-female villain Batman-based movie.
For God's sake, seriously?
Yep. It's going to be led by Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie's already signed on.
No.
Poison Ivy, Catwoman, and and a few others are going to be doing their own.
Yeah, and I imagine that's just going to be Suicide Squad, with ladies.
God damn it.
Lady Suicide Squad.
So, I think that's the thing. They're still evolving, trying to find their voice, and every one of these movies has something different to it, So I don't know quite how it's going to shake out. I personally have always said that they need to look to their animated collection of films. They need to look at the Justice League TV series that aired on, Cartoon Network for years. That's with the exception of, say, the last season, it was a really well done series and had really fleshed out characters. And it treated Wonder Woman included with respect, and you enjoyed watching it. I don't know about you guys. Did you guys ever watch it?
No.
No?
Nope.
Oh, you got to get on that. Right. But especially if you love Batman the Animated Series. Mm-hmm. So, like, Justice League kind of came because of Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
But along with that, the DC animated films, they've always treated their characters well. They've always fleshed them out. They've always made them a lot deeper than just the surface. Wonder Woman does a decent job, but the other DC movies, are they going to do that? Suicide Squad obviously didn't. So I don't know. I think they're still trying to discover their voice.
Well, my question is, for all of this, I mean, I just wonder how much more involved Zack Snyder is going to be moving forward, because, I mean, they're in full tilt production on a number of things, and obviously what happened in Zack Snyder's family is tragic. I mean, we had talked about it the other week. His daughter killed himself, and killed herself, excuse me, and he's taking a step back now. I mean, the sad fact is, like, the movie business isn't going to slow down for him to take that time. So how much of the franchise is going to move forward? I mean, we already know that Joss Whedon is taking over on Justice League, reshoots and the editing. And that's a different movie than if Zack Snyder had done it from beginning to end, like, no question. Like, that's two different movies. That would be.
But he's coming in at a very late stage.
He is.
It's not like we're still going to see a Zack Snyder film.
We will, but we'll see something different than if Zack Snyder had actually finished it. But I mean, how much time is he going to take? And I'm not saying that there's any limitation on what he should take. I mean, he should do what's right for his family.
Right.
I can't imagine what he's going through. But, I just think that that's interesting, because we keep saying Zack Snyder. He's the auteur, he's the, the Instagram filter hack, like, he's the one that's the master of all these destinies. But is the DC universe going to move on without him, is my question.
I think if they're smart, they will change their look entirely. If they're smart, they will move away from it, because that anyone I talk to, the biggest complaint they always have are the things I brought up: the slow motion, the crappy ending fight scenes, those sort of things. It's a trope that he does. And it's not. I'm not just trying to say that he's always been a terrible director. I don't think he has been. I mean, personally, I loved Dawn of the Dead. He did Dawn of the Dead, right?
Yes.
Okay.
John.
Yeah, I find that movie inexcusable.
I like that movie though. I like it for what it is.
I mean, I liked Watchmen, and that was it.
I liked Watchmen as well.
If you've read Watchmen,
Because
Brian, you read it, right?
I've read Watchmen, yes.
And if you've read it, you can't like that trite plastic movie.
The ending, the ending.
Wow,
is goofy.
your penis really did explain that to me, John.
The ending
Thanks.
is goofy compared to the ending of this. But my problem is just that the biggest issue we see with the DC movies is that they've all decided, hey, we're gonna live in Zack Snyder's universe, in Zack Snyder's visual
His sandbox,
encyclopedia, and that's what we're gonna do.
Except
and that's
his
the problem.
sandbox, the sand is black.
Yeah, but that's the problem. That's the problem is that, and I know they're trying to copy Marvel because Marvel initially was Joss Whedon's, universe and Jon Favreau's universe. So it's like we're trying to copy that.
Just forget that that's
Iron
Jon
Man,
Favreau.
yeah.
No, I don't. I'm not questioning.
Happy.
I just always forget.
But the problem is ultimately, I don't think a lot of people like the visual look of the DC universe.
They hate it.
They hate it.
Well, it's stupid.
That's why there are people who are like, yeah, I prefer the TV version of Flash compared to the version of Flash I'm seeing on the Justice League trailers. You know why? Because that's a more classic version of the Flash.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not like, bulked up layers of armor and all sorts of shit that's just ridiculous and goofy.
Yeah, the Flash on the CW.
I love it.
He's kind of a skinny dude. Like he's
That's the way
he's not
Flash,
a big guy.
That's the way the Flash is supposed to be.
Exactly.
And he's has a very simplified suit.
Yeah.
And that's what we needed. We don't need this goofy shit that they're doing with Justice League. So I'm hoping that they just get away from that.
I mean, that would be nice.
It's going to take a long time, but that's my hope.
Yeah.
So we could talk about Wonder Woman forever, by the way, and we've already gone pretty long in this episode.
Just make good movies, guys. I have no real stake in this anymore. I'm just broken. I just want good movies.
Well, I want more comic book movies from women directors because, I mean,
I want more movies from women directors in general.
Well, I mean, yes, that would be amazing. But I think Patty
just
Jenkins,
a different perspective.
I mean, I do think Patty Jenkins did a great job with this, and and this is only the beginning of her career. I mean, she doesn't have too much behind her. She did the pilot episode of The Killing. She directed that, and then she directed Monster with Charlize Theron. So
that's good.
Lots more to come from her, I hope.
Great episode, guys. So, Elaine, where can they find you on the Twitters?
You can find me on Twitter at LA_Croft, and I love to read, so follow me on Goodreads.
John?
You can find me at the Unreal J Wolves or at Brian Connington.
No, you cannot find him there.
Any complaints about John's sexism can be directed to at Brian Connington.
No, it was a pretty good episode. I don't think there's anything bad.
Dude.
Yep. Here's the thing. Instagram John and just yell titties at him, or Twitter him and yell titties. There you go.
Take it.
Okay.
That's all right.
You can find me at Brian Connington. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question, or you just want to talk to us a little bit about Wonder Woman, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Send us a rate, send us a review. We haven't got a lot of reviews.
Can't
lately.
imagine why.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We were good sports. We brought them on.
Yeah, we did.
So,
but reach out to us, guys, and until next time, I suppose.
Yeah. You can catch our new episodes available every Sunday.
Phil Kessel is a national treasure.
Epicast.